become passionate about learning about that. So I began writing poems with certain things that they would come home with, and therefore I had the poems and I just kept them. I just compiled them, then I compiled them. Then I had another experience with another wake up call in regards to my other daughter in daycare. Daycare has, a lot of wonderful children, and in the daycare it's always a plus if you get a child who's quiet. You don't have to worry about, they're not screaming, they're not hollering. So that was the case with my daughter. She was quiet, but the only problem with that scenario is that she was 2 years old. 2 years olds are not quiet to the point where they're just by themselves and playing by themselves. There's a little bit more that maybe need to be researched. So one day I took her to daycare, and that's what I was told, that she was quiet and she just sat there and she was a good girl. She don't bother us and don't give us no problems. So when I got back to the car, I started crying because that, to me, there was something that needed to be addressed, but I didn't know how or what or where. So I left that there, but I created a poem from that, and that built another poem. So I had another experience where one of my daughters, she worried a lot, and then she would worry to the point that sometimes she would ask the teacher to call me to make sure I was coming to pick her up from school, and she would be in class, and that showed that she has some type of worrying or anxieties as a young person. And so sometimes we miss the little warning signs because they're little, and we always say, oh, they'll grow out of it, or ain't nothing wrong with you. But these are sometimes wake up calls for something that you may need to look more into or address later. So I created all those poems, I compiled, and I kept them for all these years, and then I compiled them and put them into this book. And the book I think is a great book that families need, because as children go through different stages of their life, they may experience different things that you may not be aware of, especially if you're a first-time parent. I have poems in there in regards to what I was saying, like if a child is showing signs that they had reading difficulties or that they're worrying about something. Let me back up for a minute. The poem is not only for mental health issues. It's called Uplifting the Pain. It's giving insight of causes of pain. So sometimes if you can't read, it may cause a child pain at home and in school. So a parent might not know that. So using the book, they can thumb through the book and find a poem that may suit the child's need at that time. So then they can come together and work together. Then the parent can show that poem to a teacher, or they can find out more information about why my child is not reading, or why my child is not able to keep up, or why my child seems to be worried about things. Sometimes children are bullied in school, but they don't know who or how to explain it. So there is a poem in here that addresses that also, not just mental health problems. But the thing of the gist of it is that if these problems go on too long, they can cause mental problems or depression. So that's why the book is excellent for giving insight as to the problems or the pain that children, adults, or may be carrying around. So once you find like stuff at home, what the child may be experiencing, then you may be able to use those same poems to the teacher. The teacher may be seeing something else. So that helps the teacher and parents be able to collaborate and be able to better serve the child. Because if they both can possibly agree on the same poem, or either a different poem that the parent may be seeing at home and the teacher may be seeing at school, then they can come together and, like I said, better address the problem. And then again, even in schools, teachers that have the same students can use this book as a collaboration to better help the child in school, especially if they see something that may be affecting their reading, their math, their focus, or their ability to write. There is a poem in here that teachers can collaborate on and use to help the child. It's like I said again, it's not only just mental health issues, it uplifts the pain that a child may be experiencing inside the school or when they come into school. Just for another little example that I've noticed here lately, sometimes children feel very self-conscious about their hair. And I didn't even know that boys are really subconscious about their hair. And depending how long they've been bothered by that problem, it could affect them. And so there's a poem in here about that. So that's another avenue that can be addressed with the teacher and the students, so they can understand better how Johnny may feel because his hair is not combed like he wanted it to be or cut like he wanted it to be. But that can give the classroom understanding and insight of the behavior that the children may be seeing. It's not necessarily that the child is being defiant. It's just they're trying to find a comfort zone because they're not feeling comfortable. Those are also warning signs or wake-up calls that we may overlook. And so those are two other ways, and the daycare, at home, school, and I also like to elaborate in the workplace. That's another place that this book can be used. And I'll tell you another reason why. One time when I was working, and it was the secretary. And the secretary, I guess when work was given to her, I guess one too many errors was on the work that she was to correct or to type. She had a meltdown. And so sometimes people, just because they're an adult, that doesn't mean that they had their problems addressed when they were a child or an adolescent. So these same problems follow them into the workplace. And sometimes bosses or employers, they see things, but they just don't know what to say or what to do about it. But with this book, it can be utilized in a team meeting, so that the team or the people who's working around that person, they can have a better understanding or insight of what happens when that person may get upset or something is bothering them. So that's another place that this book can be used. And sometimes if dyslexia is not something that you could just get rid of, so it may follow you into the workplace, but everybody may not know about it. And then sometimes people with dyslexia, sometimes they embarrassed. They don't want nobody to know. So, but if the employer at a team meeting could go over a poem, not singling anybody out, but just giving them more insight about how dyslexia could affect someone in the workplace. And that way we could help one another and with a better working atmosphere. So another place that this book could be possibly used is during therapy. Because in therapy, sometimes no one wants to divulge what's hurting them. So how do you begin the conversation? So this may be your first time meeting this therapist or a psychologist, psychiatrist. So how do I talk about myself when I don't really know you? You're a stranger to me. So again, the therapist, psychologist, psychiatrist, counselor could have this book available, and so that the person can look through the book and give and possibly come in tune with a poem that they might address what they're feeling. Mind you, let me add, I forgot, there's over 200 different poems in this book. So 9 times out of 10, they're gonna find one poem that can at least hint around what they're feeling or give the therapist or psychologist a reason why they're there in their office. So that's how this book can help in that arena. It's a book also that could be utilized in the new arena, sports. A lot of the team players are coming to the game with hurt or pain within that they express it. Some of them express it through their game that they're playing. But still, once the game is over, the problem is still there. And so what do? Act like nothing is wrong. So again, coaches can utilize this book just to just go over some of the poems in there that some of the players might be experiencing. For example, not to downplay or say anything negative, just like the game that was here this weekend in Jacksonville. Unfortunately, all of us just knew they were going to win, and they probably felt that they were going to win too. So therefore, since they didn't, that may cause them internal pain that they are not speaking about, and they don't know how to speak about it. So therefore, the coach again can look at this book and possibly find a poem that could address the overall feeling of feeling defeated or not winning. And then that may be able to be used to open the doors to start conversation of the other players. Because now I can feel comfortable because this poem was read. So that's how this poem can be utilized in the different areas. The book has, like I said, over 200 different poems. And I like to read one particular poem. It may not be the best, but I wanted to read this poem because it kind of describes how people are feeling. And this is from Behavioral Styles Manifestations in Your Life. And it's called Locked Up. Okay? And it says, I'm locked up. All my pains, all my fears, I'm locked up. They won't let me out. I can't speak on it. My family say it doesn't exist. Don't claim it. Get over it. Things will get better. It is all in your head. I'm locked up. Definitely no one wants to know that there is really something wrong mentally with me, or if there is something wrong mentally with you. To play this game will not bring you fame. It can only bring you shame. And who is to blame? So I'm locked up. I stand alone on a rock. I look around to take stock. So please do not look at me in shock. I'm locked up. No one wants to see, only making me want to flee. I'm speaking for him, her, and me. They won't let me speak at all. So I just shut up and remain locked up. And this is something that we have to stop. We have to stop feeling locked up. We must be able to find a way to express how we feel or what's going on in our life and those things. We have also behavioral styles manifestations at home, giving poems as to how family members may feel at home. I also have it manifestation at work. Like, for example, with that, I created some for the workplace because one time, I don't know what show it was on TV, but it was a medical show. And the surgeon who was about to do surgery, he was worried about a situation at his house, at home with his wife or something like that. And it dawned on me, because I'm a deep thinker, it dawned on me, said, oh my goodness, how is he about to do surgery and he's worried about at home and having anxiety? So that brought to me to light that sometimes we think professionals aren't people like us, but they're people too, and they have worries and problems, and just like we do, because mental health and all those things are nothing more than imperfections. And imperfections, they manifest themselves differently in everybody's lives. Some of us have more than others, and some of us have gotten help, and some of us have not. So that's why I was definitely wanted to write that poem, because I was very impressed with what happened. And then at school, I have it where there's poems at school to give insight about schools. Because let me tell you another example. I'm very when I went to college and I was studying journalism and business, but I love to write, and my communication teachers told me to be a good writer, you must be empathetic. So everything that I write about, I feel it. I take on whatever problem that I'm seeing so that I can write the poem, and it just flows from there. And as I started to say before I said that, okay, we went to the Super Bowl in Tampa, what, 1 or 2 years ago? And we went to Walmart, and it was a mother, and she had two sons. She had two sons, and the mother wanted to get something that was behind the counter, and the lady from Walmart had to unlock the door to get it out. So the Walmart person, didn't get it out quick enough. So the mother, she started screaming and using profanity at the lady. And she had two sons, about 16 or 17 years old. And they stood there, very mannerable. They just waited until she was served. And then they they left and got into the car, helped her with her groceries, and they left. And I said, most people would have looked at it in a negative way, but myself, I thought of it totally different. I thought of it in a sense that somewhere or another in that lady's life, she was able to instill in her children how to act. And that was commendable on her part, because it showed that although she may act a certain way or may have a problem, she must love her children or her sons enough for some normalcy in her life where she could raise them to a certain degree. This is my analysis. Not that I don't know, because I don't know the lady, she left, but that's the way I looked at it. And so sometimes when children come to school, and they come with problems, and sometimes we need to not just look at what we see. We may need to ask questions to look further or probe. Not that we're a psychologist, but it's just give us insight so I will know how to better help the student. And so that's what my book is here helping to do with classrooms, the workplace, at home, therapy, sports, and these type of things. And another example, I have a lot of them, is about 2 weeks ago, I was at the gas station, and the man kept saying on the phone, I don't know why she's not hearing. I don't know why she's not getting it. I don't know who he was talking about, but he kept saying that over and over. I don't know why she's not getting it. I don't know why she's not getting it. When that occurs, that could be another wake-up sound. Now, either the person who he was talking about could have been older like me and a little hard of hearing, or the child or the adult couldn't comprehend. Sometimes we think that we're using words that are simple, but to other people it may not be simple enough, or it's not explained well enough where they can comprehend it or understand it and digest it. So things like that give us signs, again, wake-up call that we may need to change things. And so again, this book helps you to be able to learn about different reasons why you may see the particular behavioral style or learning style that this individual or child is exhibiting, or adult. So I invite you to look at my book. It is on Amazon, and it's on Barnes & Noble, and it's on my website. My website is www.gailcartercade.com, gailcartercade.com. If you have any problems reaching it that way, please reach out to me. And I'm just going to go ahead and say you can go to the website, and you could email is mrs.gacarde@gmail.com if you have further questions that you might want to ask in regards to this book. And I hope that this will give you a better insight of my book. I was trying to stay within the 30-minute time frame. I think I have. Could I, do you have any questions? Do you have anybody that might have any questions? No questions?
Will you repeat the website again, please?
It's www.gailcartercade.com. CarterCade.com. GailCarter-Cade.com. And if you have any problems getting that, let me know. You can email me at mrs.gacardE@gmail.com. Because and on the website, I have a page that goes over every name of every poem that I have in the book. And like I said, 9 times out of 10, you will find a poem that will give you insight as to what you may see. I'm gonna give you one more example. I was in a classroom, and a student was acting a little emotional, and so the teacher I felt needed maybe a little information about what the behavior that the student was exhibiting. So I just showed her my book, and the book gave her a little insight, and it helped her from that to learn what it was that that student may have been experiencing. And so at that point, she bought the book because it gave her insight. It didn't necessarily give her a diagnosis, but it gave her understanding of how the child was. And I got that experience from one of my children. That's why I was able to put forth that poem and then created that one. So, any other questions? Does it look like? Oh, who is that? Okay, Brett. What is it? She had a hand
I
up.
don't have a question. I just wanted to say I really enjoyed this book, especially the poem Wheelchair. It made me think of my student who got in a car accident, and she was wheelchair bound. And I also love the poem My Hair. I just like it about hair. And the one about girlfriend, like I was like, wow, that is like into the mind of I just wanted to say I'm really enjoying this book.
Thank you so much. And I'm glad that she pointed out that one girlfriend. That is a powerful poem that excellent for nowadays middle school and high schools. I would have said high schoolers, but things have changed. And yes, because sometimes young ladies find themselves caught up in relationships with controllers, even in high schools. So therefore, that is a great book for high schoolers. Parents can go over with their children so that students don't get caught up with relationships at that age, and that can be affecting their grades and possibly the rest of their life. So yeah, I thank you, Ms. Britt, for bringing that to our attention. Like I said, the poem is not just mental health. It is uplifting the pains that people carry around. And one of the poems that I had created was because I have a beauty salon, and it used to plague me as to tenderheadedness. I couldn't understand. I had a daughter with tenderheaded too, so I have most poems come from my personal experience in one way or the other, and I couldn't understand. I said, you touch them, and it hurts. And then when I worked when I used to sub a lot, I did only ESC, so I have experience in many different arenas, and I did realize that some people have a sensitivity to touch. And so, therefore, it's not that they're just crying. And again, in some cultures, when your child is tenderheaded, the norm thing to do is to beat them. But that's just adding pain, more pain to the pain that they are feeling when they're getting their hair done. And that's why I made that poem, because I wanted parents to understand that. And the hairstyling or getting the hair groomed, that could be like a PTSD. It can cause children to really hate that experience and relive it. So therefore, when our children are experiencing some things, we need to look closer. Again, because some children hate loud noises. And even though some of these things we think they grow out of, a lot of times they manifest themselves in other ways. And so therefore, it hadn't really gone away, some of them. It just, like I said, manifests themselves in different ways. So that's why we have to come to grips with the different pains and be more aware and just look deeper and just get insight as to what we're looking at. Now, I did 30 minutes. Am I taking too much time? Is everybody okay? Uh-oh, it clicked off. Okay, no, it went off. It did. Oh, wow. Okay.